On today's episode of Andy and Ari on 3, we talk about some of the biggest lightning rods in college football with our friend JD Pickell, Dabo Swinney, Lincoln Riley, Mike Bobo. Yeah, these names all make you feel a certain kind of way, but why? And is the criticism lobbed at these guys fair? We talk about that with JD Pickell. Plus, a great interview with new Coastal Carolina coach Ryan Beard. He is a lot of fun. Incredible story about meeting his wife, and also drops a little nugget about another new head coach in this cycle, Kentucky's Will Stein. Talk about it all on today's Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. We are sponsored by BetMGM, home of the Pick a Twin to Win free-to-play game. That's right. The Cabinet Twins are facing off in the Court of Legends game at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, and you can win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Here's how you do it. You opt into the Pick a Twin to Win free-to-play game. You select which Cabinet Twin, either Haley or Hannah, you think will win the Court of Legends one-on-one basketball game. If the twin you pick wins the game, you will win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Now, that's not the only thing going on at BetMGM. Obviously, you know what's going on this week. March matchups, odds boost each day of tournament games, March 26th through March 29th. You know what March means for college hoops. Lock in for every game and make your March moment when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any March matchups bet, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Also, March 26th, March 27th, and any sport odds boost token will be available to you. BetMGM players will receive an any sports odds boost token. To use the token, add a wager made up of bets from any sport to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win your wager that was made with the token, you receive extra winnings in unrestricted bonus dollars. Lots of different ways to make it legendary this week at BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. Fun day coming up, Ari Wasserman, because we're going to talk about some of the biggest lightning rods in college football with our friend JD Pickell.
The ultimate feeling show. You know I'm here for it.
Oh, absolutely. Let's just get right to it. JD, you know him. You love him from the hard count. He put out the most wrongfully disrespected list last week, did a whole show on it. We took some issue with some of his selections. He's going to explain himself, and we're going to have a very fun conversation about why these people make you feel the way you do.
Feelings.
When you see their names. Here's JD. Joined by JD Pickell, who is diabolically ingenious.
That's the word.
I respect the hell out of JD Pickell. We are a JD Pickell respecting podcast because JD Pickell came up with a concept so brilliant. It's the perfect off-season plan. It's the top 10 most wrongfully disrespected people in college football. And oh my God, JD, this is genius because Ari, you tell him. You tell him why it's genius.
You can get a collection of 10 buzzword names that cause people to feel something, even if they don't know what the discussion's about, and you put them all on a list together and then rank them. There's nothing that this is TNT, man. Like this is, it's like, and some of them, because like, and I think that everybody had the same experience that I had, Andy, which is Yeah, I see that with this guy. Oh, what are you talking about? He should be disrespected.
Exactly.
What order is this? I don't. And like the thing about it is that like how much you disrespect each individual person is your own personal journey. So like the way that you listed, it's like I don't even know. Like, is Josh Heupel that disrespected? But maybe in Tennessee he is. I don't know. But like there is a really interesting conversation to be had about all of them. Like number one. Like, is Ryan Day disrespected today? Like, he might have been 2 years ago, but then when he was disrespected, it was warranted. He couldn't beat Michigan. But, like, now, like, is that still there? Like, I think that we should unpack these names, but, like, how you feel about somebody, like a Georgia fan, for instance, might have a much different reaction to number 7 than I do. You know, and it's just kind of like a choose your adventure type thing. But I do know one thing for sure, that is no matter who you are, it's explosive. And that's what you're supposed to do. And well done, JD.
Well, one, I appreciate that coming from y'all. That is not praise I'm taking lightly by any stretch of the imagination. Two, one of the most like common responses I got on social media was, "Well, if this is the wrongfully disrespected top 10, we need the rightfully disrespected top 10."
Yeah,
like that.
We should do it.
That's another conversation to be had. That's
Rightfully disrespected is like
grab the floaties for that one.
Biggest losers in college football by JD Pickell. I'd love to.
Who do you hate the most? Who do you just not like? So I don't know. So here we are.
Well, so what was the genesis for this? Because the one Ari mentioned number 7, and I will name number 7, and we will talk about number 7 at some point. It's Mike Bobo, the Georgia offensive coordinator, because he is maybe the single biggest lightning rod to me for a certain segment of college football fans. You know, mostly people who follow SEC teams, like they get that more than say, you know, somebody who's a Michigan fan or Ohio State fan. They may not have the full appreciation for it. But who was it on this list that you were thinking about? You're like, I need to make a whole list of these.
Well, first it was Dabo, because some of it is like you could put Dabo lower on the list because maybe he is rightfully disrespected for what they haven't done adapting to modern college football and having a bunch of first-round picks on your roster and then not even sniffing the ACC title game. So, like, my first thought was, okay, what's Dabo Swinney's place in college football, and how do you contextualize that? I think actually Ari and I talked about this when he came on our show a couple of weeks ago, and, like, you could argue Dabo Swinney, his resume is one of the best in the sport in the last 20 years, but right now I don't think anybody is beating down Dabo Swinney's door as being a top 10 coach in college football right now. So that was kind of like the first thought for me, and honestly, I'll put it out on social media just as a prompt for people to respond to and who they thought was the most, like, quote-unquote wrongfully disrespected. I had somebody throw in there Gus Johnson. I was like, I like Gus Johnson. I don't know that people didn't like Gus Johnson or had a disdain for him, I suppose. And so that got me thinking of like, okay, we could expand the circle a little bit here and go not just head coaches. We could go to players, coordinators, folks in media, and this was what came out.
I should have
Fernando Mendoza. Rare's back. He's.
I love him.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it.
So here's the thing, because we did have a discussion about Dabo. And for me, I was given a project at The Athletic in 2023 before I came to do my personal Mount Rushmore of college football coaches. And I put Dabo on it and people freaked out. But at the time, Dabo was the only person in the country that took a solid program and made it into an elite one. Andy and I have discussed that many times. And I think that when you do something like that, that was uncharted territory. It made you different. And it's a legend in my head. Now, the question is, in college football, what's the statute of limitations for like achievements, like the reverse of that? Because like there is we know that this is a what have you done for me lately business. And you should be held to a certain standard always, while also maintaining your overall respect. So like with Dabo, I think that Clemson fans are probably fed up. They're probably upset about the lack of growth or, at least evolution that the program has gone under as the sport changed, while also being like, get out of here, but you can still come to every home game and we'll cheer for you relentlessly. Like, I think that we're at the point now where people accept Dabo as one of the greatest coaches of our generation. At the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that the disrespect that he is getting in the moment is unwarranted. And I think that is kind of a line to draw too. Like James Franklin, I think to a certain extent. Like, I'm very curious how James Franklin, who's number 2 on your list, will be received by Penn State fans in 10 years. How will Lincoln Riley be perceived by OU fans? Well, maybe that'll never get repaired. But like, I think that like sometimes time changes how we view somebody in the aggregate. But in the moment, like, I think that everybody on this list, I don't really know what the deal with Pat McAfee is. Do people not like him? I guess like, he's your
people hate him
or not, but
or love him. Yeah.
But like, I think that everybody on this list, for the most part, when you zoom out, is like a career accomplisher that like will be appreciated for being productive. It's just whether or not they're measuring up to the high and current expectations of their position or, their role. So, like Ryan Day, number 1, like, is he disrespected anymore? Like, do people think he stinks still? Like, I think that like people like universally probably would regard him as a top 5 coach in the country, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think the reasoning, and not to flip the conversation too much to Ryan Day, because I know we want to talk more about Dabo there for a second, or I had something more to say about Dabo at least. The thing with me with Ryan Day is it feels like he's always one loss away from us questioning his credibility as a good enough head coach at Ohio State. And Ari, you know this better than anybody. Like, if he wins, okay, good, you're supposed to do that. Look at the roster, look at the resources, look at the brand power. Like, you should go win a national championship at Ohio State. And that's not to say that Ohio State fans shouldn't expect that, but if they don't win the national championship or they lose to Michigan, and I know there's more context to the Michigan rivalry, obviously, than just losing to Michigan. But like, if you don't go do what you're supposed to do, all of a sudden it's like, do we have the right guy running the show at Ohio State? Like, the fact that he's always a game or two away from us wondering if he's a good enough coach for the Buckeyes, that to me just muddied the water in terms of how respected he is, at least at any given point.
I think, and I'm glad Dabo was the genesis of your list, because I think there was a time when Dabo was a rightful number 1 on your list. Because the thing that makes Dabo so interesting in this discussion is even when he was at his best, when he was winning national titles, there were a lot of people who just hated him, who didn't think he was any good, who maybe they didn't like how he talked. They didn't like what he said. They didn't like how he acted. Like, Dabo was a lightning rod no matter what. It didn't matter what he said. Somebody was going to pile on him. And it didn't matter how good he was. There were people who just refused to respect him. And I think those people probably, like Ari said, have gone away as the years have gone on. And you look back and you appreciate what Dabo did. But I remember very vividly in those national championship seasons, he'd have a weird press conference and just get buried.
Well, here's one of
the best coaches in the country.
And I think that that's a very good point, Andy. And here's the difference with Dabo that you would get from, like, let's say Kirby Smart. Dabo Swinney won 2 national titles in a 3-year period and never really felt like he got that, like, 5-year runway as being universally supported by fans as one of the greatest in the game. Like, even though he did everything that he did it ever feel like he was ever regarded nationally by everyone the way that Kirby Smart was after they won their 2nd title? And like, Kirby Smart has had more success in this modern era because Georgia has won the SEC and made the playoff multiple times in this new era. So maybe it's not a apples to apples comparison 100% of the way. But I feel like Kirby Smart is like the Teflon Don of, like, you cannot criticize that man no matter what, because he won 2 national titles and built Georgia back up. And it's like, well, Dabo Swinney did the same thing at Clemson and maybe did it at a place that was harder to do it at and never really got that 5-year honeymoon period. And maybe that's because, they didn't really, maintain their level of success to the highest degree afterward. But like, I don't understand, like, how many years of Kirby Smart not making it out of the first round of the college football playoff is it going to take before people start treating him that way? And I feel like it's not the same. I don't think that Dabo ever got the rightful praise that he deserved in the moment that he deserved it, which has made it easier to come down off of the high of his run with some of the bad years that he's had. So, and Dabo's also made really controversial public comments about roster building and the direction of the sport as it was happening, before it happened, and even after it happened. And like, part of the way that he speaks, I think, irks people the wrong way. But I feel like if you don't respect Dabo Swinney for what he built and what he did at Clemson, like, you're just an idiot. Like, that's just like not true. He's been a great coach.
And it's interesting because he's losing respect from people now because of the on-field product.
Mm.
Interestingly enough, he is backing off some of the more stubborn statements he made about changes in the game. This is a guy who said, if they're going to pay players, I'm probably not going to coach college football anymore. Who then they started paying players. He kept coaching college football. And now he's saying, no, they should probably be employees so we can have a CBA and have some rules. Like, he's come a long way in terms of those views. And he's not, it's interesting, as stubborn as he is as a football coach, he seems less stubborn now on all the other stuff.
And that's, I think, what has made him so easy to come down on is what you just said a second ago, Andy. Like, he had these really staunch views on the way college football was trending. And so everybody and their mama who's got an opinion on how to build a roster in college football is sitting back and saying, well, Dabo might be a good coach, might have done X, Y, and Z, but he's an absolute idiot for not adjusting to the times. And that was like the easy armchair take to have if you were a troll on social media or if you were someone with a microphone that had a strong take on Dabo. And like, one of the reasons why I have him so high up on the list in the wrongful disrespect category is even if Dabo never fully comes around to embracing like where college football is headed, and he's not like a 15 portal guy a year head coach at Clemson ever, there's a part of me that kind of respects the fact that he has stuck to his guns as much as he has. Like, I appreciate him going to the portal more. I appreciate him hiring out of his tree a little bit more in recent hires. Like, I'm here for that. But at the end of the day, I do think Dabo Swinney genuinely still believes college football is about molding young men and winning as many games as possible and doing that. And I think he's okay with not winning as many games as he would like to, so long as they are molding young men in the, doing the thing that he believes is, the most intrinsically valuable with being a head coach at Clemson. So in that way, I'm like, I would like you to be a little bit more aggressive in the portal and get more, coaches outside of your tree here, Dabo. But if we're going to stick to our guns, it's hard to not respect that.
Well, there's two things with Dabo. One is his viewpoints on college football have always been admirable, but his job isn't to develop young men. His job is to win football games, and he's paid a lot of money for that. Yeah. Second of all, here's the other thing that people don't appreciate when it comes to Dabo Swinney. He's very long-winded. So if he is making a point and it takes him 5 minutes to get to that point, you might be able to clip a 15 to 25 second soundbite in the middle of that 5-minute rant and latch onto it while also missing the overall point of what he was trying to make. So I think that, and even in times in the past, I've criticized him, and then you'll go watch a whole clip and you'll be like, oh, wait a minute, like that's not exactly what he meant. And I think that a lot of times people get, nailed for short sound bites when in actuality, like they weren't as bold or as hot of a take statement as you think. And I think that people remember the statements, they don't remember the rants. And I think him too.
And I think you're right about that. And I also think it's interesting because like you hadn't spent a whole lot of time around him, Ari, before we had him on the show at one point last year. And it was fun watching you because like when you're around Dabo, when you actually get in his orbit, you can't not like him.
I would want to play for him.
It's almost impossible.
Oh, for sure.
And he's just one of those guys that connects with everybody. But if you see him in sound bites and you see him in just clips, it doesn't come across the same way. And he can come across as holier than thou. He can, and so he's one of those people, if you get a chance to meet him in person, you have a completely different view than if you just view him through sound bites.
Makes sense.
Definitely.
Makes sense.
And I had that experience too. I had a notion of Dabo before, and then he's been on our show a few times. And now my viewpoints of him are different because I've seen him when he's not being recorded. And like, that's somebody I'd want to hang out with in his office. So like, but again, to zoom out, I think we all respect him collectively. But I also think that he is every bit as responsible and deserving of the criticism that he's currently getting. Because even if you're admirable in your pursuits of molding young men and doing things the right way and promoting from within and sticking with a young man so that he understands the value of perseverance, all these things are great qualities and traits. But you don't get rings for perseverance. You get rings for winning games. And Clemson expects to win games, and he has not done what he needs to do as a head coach to deliver what his job is demanding of, So like, it's kind of an interesting thing, but it feels like it's winding down for him there.
Where would y'all put him on your respective lists? Like knee-jerk reaction, higher or lower for Dabo on your wrongfully disrespected top 10?
I think you have him in the right spot now. I think if it were 2018, he'd be number one with a bullet, because there were a lot of people who disrespected him, and he was at the top of his game at that point.
Yeah.
But I want to get to number 7.
If I'm being honest, but yeah.
I want to talk about number 7 now, because Mike Bobo, I think, is the biggest lightning rod in the sport for a certain group of people. And it's so funny because we see it on our show with some of our most dedicated members of the audience. So we have Matt who will watch the live shows and comment and always hits us up on social media.
This is
I
going
believe
to ruin Matt
thinks if Todd Monken had never left Georgia, that Georgia would have won 5 national titles in a row. He blames Mike Bobo for all of the ills in the world. Meanwhile, we've got Arthur, who sends us really thoughtful emails. He's a Georgia fan. He sent me an email a few weeks ago, and he said, I've been rewatching a lot of games from last season, and it sure seems like Bobo schemed up some really good open receivers, and sometimes Gunnar Stockton missed them. And it's really interesting because you have the people who swear by Bobo. Aaron Murray, for example. Bobo was Aaron Murray's OC at Georgia. Aaron Murray is the biggest Mike Bobo fan in the world. He is, and will tell you he's the best guy ever. He's the guy you want in your foxhole, all that stuff. Meanwhile, anytime anything goes wrong at Georgia, it's not blame Kirby Smart. It's not blame Glenn Schumann. It's run the damn ball, Bobo.
It's amazing. It is. I mean, even this last year, when you're watching Trinidad Chambliss go up and down the field, not once, but twice against Georgia, 2 separate occasions. We got people in the mention saying, what's Bobo doing now? Hey, Bobo's going to mess it. We got to get Mike Bobo out of there now. And I'm like, you're scoring over 30 a game, 2 separate years, 2 separate quarterbacks, won the SEC 2 years in a row. I don't think Mike Bobo's the problem. Mike Bobo is not responsible for scheming it up against Trinidad Chambliss or for taking down Ty Simpson. Like, I'm having a hard time piecing this together. I also think like this kind of gets, maybe a little bit under the radar. I don't imagine a defensive head coach in Kirby Smart is like the easiest head coach to call plays for offensively. I think there's probably a couple of different like nuances that come with that.
JD, to your point, I think there's a reason Mike Bobo, when he left, he got fired at Colorado State as the head coach, didn't immediately go work for Kirby Smart, because I know there was talk about that happening. But they're really good friends. And I think he was worried how it might affect the friendship. So he goes and works for Will Muschamp at South Carolina first. But I'm with you.
Offer a real criticism that may in 2026 may or may not be his fault? Has Georgia had enough offensive skill talent the last few years to win a championship? Ooh. And whose purview is that?
That is Kirby Smart's as well, because he's in charge of stocking the whole roster. But you're right. The offensive coordinator is responsible for that.
They haven't had any receivers the last few years. Now, I'm not saying that they were crappy, but like they didn't have any game breakers that could turn a game upside down the way that.
No, there was no Jeremiah Smith. There was no Malachi Toney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Zach Branch pretty
and
good.
Ryan Williams, I guess, was up and down last year, but Ryan Williams made Georgia pay. Yeah. And you cannot watch the game and be like, well, if they had one guy like that could take a play and turn it into a touchdown, Georgia doesn't have that guy. So they have some young good players, and they're very talented and a good team. They've won the SEC, but I don't know that like the points per game thing or the actual rhythm of the offense and all that stuff is actually the root of the gripe. I think the root of the gripe is they're not explosive. Or they don't feel explosive or dangerous when they're playing against other elite
But they
teams.
actually are explosive. They from a down-to-down perspective, they're one of the more explosive offenses in the country.
I think it probably wasn't easy with Carson Beck at quarterback the year before either. Dude tied the SEC lead that year in interceptions. And I think that probably also, that's the other part that makes it impressive is him being the common denominator each of the past 2 years with different quarterbacks, different personnel, not as good of an offensive line to way better offensive line this past year. Like my gripe the year before this was like the offensive line in the run game was just like non-existent. And I don't think it was like a personality thing. It just wasn't at all we've been accustomed to seeing from a Georgia line of scrimmage. And so even with that, they still, again, scored over 30, won the SEC, all those things, with Carson Beck throwing 12 picks on the year. There's a lot of things where you still blame Bobo for some of it. He's a piece of the blame, but I'm like, how bad could it have been if it wasn't Mike Bobo making this whole thing go?
Yeah, last year against Tennessee, they scored 44. Now, granted, it was an overtime. Against Ole Miss, they scored 43. Against Texas, they scored 35. Against Bama, they scored 28, and they scored 34 points in their loss in the playoff. So that was a completely different experience than the year before, where they scored 10 points against Notre Dame in the playoff and 10 points in a loss against Ole Miss. I think that maybe sometimes, too, people latch on to like familiar feelings, and even if things have improved or changed, that like they're used to not liking somebody and they're just going to stick with it, which I've seen.
And remember, these feelings predate Kirby Smart as the head coach. Yeah. These feelings go back to when Mark Richt was the head coach. And by the way, Bobo was running a good offense back then too, but there were moments. There's a game at South Carolina where they throw 3 times inside the 5-yard line and don't score a touchdown. That's where run the damn ball Bobo really took off. And sometimes it's almost more the nostalgia of that, I think, that affects Mike Bobo now. Like, people just remember when they were in college or when they were young and they could scream at Mike Bobo, and now it just gives them a good feeling inside to yell at Mike Bobo.
One other question, and this is just purely speculative and complete nonsense, but I have to ask you guys because it's a podcast and we're having fun. If his last name was like Williams, would it be as fun to yell at him?
Not nearly as much fun.
No.
Don't you think his last name contributes to like screaming?
Has to.
It does.
It has to.
Yeah.
And it's also like you can say it in one breath, Like Williams, you got to kind of like make sure you get a good, inhale before.
Yeah.
Like Bobo, you're just like, it doesn't matter. You got food in your mouth.
And Bobo runs. It rolls off your tongue.
It's one letter away from Bozo.
Yeah.
So people, I think people associate that.
I would say this too.
I never thought of it that way.
About this like a year ago, and talking to Rusty Mansell about it, and being like, "Hey, like maybe I'm just out of the loop here. Like maybe I'm missing some piece of context that is crucial to understanding the Mike Bobo lore. Like why don't Georgia fans even? I shouldn't say why don't Georgia fans like this guy, because I think there's a fair amount of people that do like Mike Bobo in Georgia circles. But like there's a clear like scapegoat thing going on here. Why is that? And he was talking about like it goes back to when Mike Bobo played at Georgia. Like to your point, Andy, of the nostalgia of it all, like there's people that have, I don't want to say differences, but frustrations with Mike Bobo from these days playing at Georgia. And so going back to like, it's just fun to kind of yell at Mike Bobo. It's part of the hardwiring potentially.
He broke Steve Spurrier's win streak against Georgia as a player in '97. By the way, also the game where the Gators wear jean shorts chant was invented. So listen, Mike Bobo has done some great things for the University of Georgia.
When I was on a beat, like this happens too with fans who latch onto things. Like when I was on the Ohio State beat, there was a period of time where Luke Fickell was the enemy. Then there was a linebackers coach named Bill Davis that was kind of like everybody's pointing the finger. I just think that there are scapegoats that naturally emerge on staffs and become trendy to dislike. And then there's a confirmation bias too of like, oh, well, look, they threw it on 3rd and 3 when they should have ran it. And then like you just get mad about something that like would have otherwise gone undetected somewhere else. So like I think that like there's a trendy ease factor of this that all wraps around his last name, but it's not like they couldn't score last year. And they did it again without some of those pieces that really excite you offensively. If you asked 90 out of 100, 100 random people in college football who aren't like diehards or like who is the best offensive player on Georgia's team, do you think anybody like 90 of them could even, maybe 10 people could name somebody, but I think 90% of the fans you ask that aren't Georgia fans would have a hard time identifying who their threat is. And everybody knows who Ryan Williams is. Everybody knows who Jeremiah Smith is. Like, who's the guy on the video game that's on Georgia's offense? They just don't have that person. And I actually think that Gunnar Stockton is very underrated in terms of the way that we perceive him nationally as a quarterback. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I think that his place on that list probably makes a ton of sense. Now, Andy, if you don't mind, I want to just grab him and just yell at him about one that I believe deserves the criticism.
Do it.
And that would be number 8.
I was about to guess.
I don't like. I know the Heisman's. It's Lincoln Riley for those listening. Does he deserve praise at the moment? Like the guy is probably a year away from.
Here's the thing about Lincoln Riley that you need to remember. Lincoln Riley as the Oklahoma coach, almost universally praised, beloved, nationally respected. Leaving Oklahoma for USC was his heel turn. That's where the disrespect started. And now you're getting an interesting phenomenon because now I will say with the Oklahoma fans, they were very quick to defend Lincoln Riley when he was their coach about lack of physicality, not having great defenses. They were the first to jump on him about that when he got to USC. It then bore itself out. He's tried to fix that. But I think the heel turn ratcheted up the disrespect for him.
When you make the heel turn, you have to produce. And I'm very curious if things don't go well in Baton Rouge for Lane Kiffin, how the world's going to perceive him. Because Lincoln Riley went from being one of the coolest young coaches in college football that knew how to make a Heisman winner out of anybody to the backstabber who went out to LA and left his team. And I think that, for as much trouble as I got into saying I'd much rather live in LA than Norman, I do think that there is a certain college football unspoken language too, where like a lot of fans root for teams that are in small towns in the South or places like Norman. And the thought process that he could feel too good for being in a place like Norman to go out to LA and have a Pacific Ocean view also plays a part.
Dude's from Muleshoe, Texas.
I know. I'm just saying, like, the underlying resentment, though, towards, oh, look at him. He's so LA now. Oh, he wants to go out to LA and run away from the SEC and play in the Pac-12. Like, all these things mattered. And then he went there, and they were half a football away from making the playoff in year one, and their teams have been very underwhelming every year since. And, like, maybe they've gotten better. They hired a coordinator in Danton Lynn a few years ago that helped them fix their defense. He's no longer there. But, like, is he not in a win 9 games or win 8 games or you're fired mode right now? Like if you're even like remotely on the hot seat, then your disrespect is completely warranted to me.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. I think so. Where I land on this, I want to go back to what you guys said about the heel turn from Lincoln Riley, because I was never out on Lincoln Riley, but it struck a funny chord with me when he goes post Bedlam on the podium and says, "I'm not going to be the head coach at LSU." We're like, okay, great, like good to know. And then like 24 hours later, Lincoln Riley, head coach at USC, like, well, I guess he wasn't lying, but that felt kind of slimy. The reason why I have Lincoln Riley on the list, I respect the fact that he is doing the things that he wasn't doing early in his career. And so some of this is me like buying the trend in Lincoln Riley, because I still understand, like, are they the toughest team in college football? Has he remedied the narrative around what his defenses are completely? Like, by no stretch of the imagination. But to me, like I root for the kid who's trying in class when we all know that it's not maybe his best subject to go up there on the board and complete the algebra problem. Like, I know Lincoln Riley is not a defensive guy, but the fact that he is, whether it's against his will or not, hiring Danton Lynn and then goes out and hiring Gary Patterson, and they're doing the right work when it comes to hiring the right GM and Chad Bowden, and when it comes to the defensive side of the football, like all these things that he is doing that are, I think, getting them close to what they need to be as an overall football team. I think you're right. If they don't make the playoff this year, I've said it before, I think it's playoff or bust. 110%.
Here's the problem with you, JD. Here's the problem with you. You're too good of a human being.
There are many.
Like, you're too nice. And you're too nice of a human being. I wish I could be the kid that didn't understand math that had a 10-year, $100 million guaranteed contract. I'll go up there and flunk division up there in front of everybody. And like your thought process is admirable. You're like the Dabo Swinney of analysts. Like you're everybody is beautiful and you want everybody to succeed. And I love that about you. Like, you are genuinely one of the nicest human beings ever.
But Ari, I agree with JD on this, because what do I always say? Lincoln Riley's too young and too smart to let himself go down that way. That I refuse to give up on him, because I think he can figure it out. Now, maybe he can't. Yeah. We'll see. This season will go a long way toward determining that.
Given the afforded the opportunity to try to figure it out is because they paid him an absurd amount of guaranteed money and they couldn't remove it from him. He wouldn't be the coach there right now if he didn't have that contract. So like they're watching him work. You're like watching him work through it in real time, because the program that's paying him all that money is trapped by the inability.
But he doesn't have to work through it. Jimbo Fisher didn't work through it. He's like, fire me and pay me, please. I'm not changing.
A game away from being in the playoff this past year. Like, if they beat Oregon, they're in the dance. Yeah. So like, it's not.
But
like
we watched the Oregon game, and they were never beating
6
Oregon.
wins, 7 wins.
Yeah, that was like
they were there. If they finish finish the season strong and win 10 games, like they're in.
Yeah, like I go back to Ryan Day, because I always do. It's a subject that I'm very familiar with. It's like, while he was losing to Michigan, he deserved it. Like, you deserve, you're not doing it. So was he trying? Sure. I'm sure he tried everything in for 4 years to figure out how to win the game. But at no point was he forgiven for that fully until they went out and won a national title and then ultimately beat Michigan the next year. I will find it admirable the way that you do if Lincoln Riley figures it out. But for the time being, I see a university that's paying him generational money and a fan base that's dying to win and a failure to do so. And like, that's where the criticism comes from. Now, you can work through that all you want. And if you break through it, then it disappears and you're extended and you have your job and everything goes great. But in the meantime, like, as we're sitting here on March 25th recording this, the 26th, like, we are in full reasonable criticism mode with him. So, like, you know, but again, you're so nice, JD, and I love that about you. Don't ever change.
I would just say, like, the narrative against him has been, hey, not tough enough, defense not good enough. And then they go out this past year and run for 200 on Michigan and beat Michigan, which was a top 30 defense. They go out and beat Iowa in Iowa kind of weather in LA. Like, I think the things that we've asked Lincoln Riley to do over the course of the last 4 years at USC hasn't made the playoff just yet, which is obviously always going to be judged on this upcoming year. But I think, like, some of the narratives around Lincoln Riley are starting to crack, which is why I'm like, if he was still having defenses that gave up 30 a game, like, yeah, he probably is rightfully on the disrespected list. But I like what I'm seeing from him, and I think some of the narratives, again, are starting to course correct.
He's been paid $50 million so far, and he hasn't made the playoff yet.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot of money.
So I guess my question is, like he took over USC because Clay Helton wasn't good enough, right? And so even you paid him $200 million, it's like it's going to take some time to turn this thing around. The biggest issue.
Curt Cignetti won the national title in 2 years at Indiana.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah.
So USC doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
Now, and I also think that beautiful house with the pool is like part of his like compensation stipend too. So I don't even think he has to pay for that beautiful view. And maybe I just resent it because I would like to have a pool view like that with the ocean, and that's probably not going to happen for me. But like we'll see. And the one other thing too I wanted to say that is true about Lincoln Riley that also irked people is that he took Caleb Williams from Oklahoma before that was a regular thing. Like that was that was viewed as particularly scumbaggy. Now everyone does it and it feels normal, but he was the first one to take a high profile player like that with him, right? Am I forgetting? Or like at a time where you could take your player and he could play for you the following year the way that he did. Like that, like he didn't just leave Oklahoma. He seemed to turn the knife a little bit on the way out. And I think that like kind of made him like a, like you said, a heel turn that hasn't been paid off yet. So like also again,
he burned the brisket. Can we just be in the trust tree? Yeah. He burned the brisket. Like that. Oklahoma fans tried to defend that when he was their coach, and now, and that was one of the things they immediately brought up when he left. He's like, "Oh, we knew we couldn't trust him. He burned the brisket."
Yeah.
In fairness, fair. I would probably burn the brisket.
I have no rebuttal for that. That's fair. That's fair.
Cooking brisket's hard. So is making the playoff. When you get $10 million, you're supposed to do it. JD, one more question. Any honorable mentions? Who just missed the list? Who'd you have in your rough draft that didn't quite make the list?
I had Brent Venables on here in my
good one.
back 10 because I feel like everyone still is talking about him just being a coordinator, and I'm like, they took the toughest schedule in college football and did make the playoff when he was the guy that Oklahoma got post Lincoln Riley. So I think he probably deserves a little bit more.
Also
respect
with Venables.
How about Brett Yormark?
Can we tie Clemson?
Yeah.
When did Venables leave Clemson? What has happened since Venables left? Like maybe he wasn't getting enough credit.
This happens in college football. It kind of happened with Mario Cristobal last year as we were going through the playoff and they were winning games to get to the national title game. If it's fun or funny or normal to make fun of somebody for being something on Twitter, that stays with you until you do the ultimate thing to get it gone. Like Ryan Day was a choke artist until he wasn't. Mario Cristobal was a terrible in-game manager until he wasn't. Kirby Smart was a choke artist before he wasn't. It takes time to break through. And the second that James Franklin, who's also on your list, does something at Virginia Tech and maybe makes the playoff and wins a game or two, maybe who knows? Like he's always the guy that can't break through the glass ceiling. Like everybody has their narratives. And the only way to get your narrative off of you in college football is to go the hard way and do the thing and be successful at the thing that people say you can't do. And that's not an easy thing to do. And it's not an easy ask. But at the same time, every time I criticize somebody or I'm hard on somebody for it, I also remember that, being employed in this business and getting paid the amounts of money that you're getting paid to deliver, this is part of the deal here. So, there are harder jobs, Andy. I'm sure roofing in July is a pretty tough job, and it costs a lot of money to get a new roof on your house because it's a hard thing to do. Now, if that roofer loses a tile or doesn't do it right and there's a leak in your house, what happens? He's held responsible for it. Football is no different, even though it's on TV and it feels like a reality TV show.
It's the best reality TV show. And JD, thank you for this. I hope this is an annual thing because I want to see. I actually want to help you compose it next year because this was fun.
I want to see those lists. Yeah, absolutely.
We need to do a list. I think maybe we'll do one together, Andy.
Yeah, I like it.
Awesome.
JD, thank you so much. When we come back, new Coastal Carolina coach Ryan Beard, the story of how he met his wife. Yeah, this guy's got some church bells on him. We'll be right back. We are joined by new Coastal Carolina coach Ryan Beard. He has arrived in Conway, South Carolina from Missouri State. First spring practice almost in the books. Spring game Friday night. All right, coach, I got to ask about this because I was listening to you on the radio in South Carolina talking about this. You're going good on good. Spring practice, just set the ball down and let your best offense and your best defense play against each other. Like nobody does that anymore.
We absolutely are. I know I'm a younger head coach, but I got an old soul. I think that the way to evaluate your football team is to watch them actually play football. So we're going to do exactly what you said. We're going to kick the ball off on air. We're going to spot it and go. We're going to go good on good, try to get 70, 80 plays, which, again, is high. But we're going to have a great atmosphere here. We're going to have a bunch of fans in the stands. We're going to do things like a game day mentality just to work on not only, how to play, but how to mentally process and go about your day in regards to what it takes to have your best game to date each and every Saturday this fall.
Do you feel like when you're a first, year head coach at a new place, trying to get a grasp of your roster, when you do that people are playing game-like intensity because they're trying to show you what they have? I mean, I'm assuming it's a great evaluation tool.
Yeah, 100%. I think you can get only so much out of just skills and drills. I think you have to put them into pressure situations. I think you have to, put them in as many game-like scenarios as you possibly can. And everything we do here at Coastal Carolina is built on competition. And in my humble opinion, how can you say that things are based on competition if you don't see them truly compete and you don't see them cut it loose and see who can mentally process through down and distance, through field positions and those types of things, which, that's the second level of a player that you have to continue to develop.
So I got to go back to your past because we had one of your former coworkers on not long ago, and he was talking about his experience growing up, in the coaching business. Your 2014 quality control / GA room at Louisville. So we had Will Stein on a few weeks ago. Will was there with you. Will had played quarterback at Louisville. You'd played DB at Western Kentucky and had started out, with Willie Taggart and then gotten to that. Like Derek Nicholson's there. Who else is in that room? That's a pretty star-studded room, right?
Yeah, it was me, Will, Pete Nocta, Court Dennison, Jamarcus Shepard was in there with us a little bit. It wasn't that exact room in Louisville, but Matt Lombardi at UNC. Who else? There's a few others.
Shepard's a head coach now too.
He's the head coach at Oregon State. Yeah, he was at my wedding, and not only, I don't know if Will told you this, not only were we GA compadres, but we were roommates. So he can actually play the guitar and sing.
What?
So next time you have him on, see if he can play a jam for you.
What's the most?
What was the song he would play in your apartment?
Listen, it's Hootie and the Blowfish, Let Her Cry. I mean, almost every time. Absolutely elite. I mean, it was incredible. Now, again, he's a guy that likes to cut it loose and have fun. Me and Will are still super close to this day, as well as the other guys in that GA room.
When you live with guys when you're younger, it's a great camaraderie experience. You're all in the same phase of life, party time, working towards a common goal. What was the most annoying thing he did as a roommate? Was he like a leave of dishes in the sink kind of guy or what?
Well, I think we both maybe had a tendency to do that, but at that time, we didn't have enough money to really have our own food, so we were taking the big boxes from the Louisville catering, and that's really what our fridge was filled with, were the leftovers from what the players left behind the day before for meal check-in. So I don't really know if Will had any real major tendencies. Now, one cool thing was we had all the connections in Louisville because he's Mr. Kentucky, so anywhere we go, it's, the guys are coming out. There's Will Stein, all this and that. And I said, Will, man, you seem like you're really enjoying this. He said, yeah, man, this is my city.
You can't say that now. He's coaching the rival, but
that's right.
So we got to talk about another thing that happened while you're at Louisville, because you were a GA there, quality control there. You worked for Bobby Petrino for roughly 4 years before there's this dinner that you're attending. You don't have a seat. The head ball coach waves you over, is like, here, sit here. And you wind up sitting next to his daughter, who you decide during the course of this dinner is going to be your wife, who you've not met her before.
Yeah, never shook her hand, never said hello. And I was kind of doing the GA wandering around thing, trying to figure out what I could do to find a spot. And, there's Bob, and he's like, just come sit at the table. Me and him had a great relationship, still do to this day. And I sit, and to my left is the future Miss Katie Beard. And it was like one of the lightning in a bottle situations, because I could, as the meal went on, I could kind of, we were chatting a little bit, and I could kind of, feel maybe some chemistry there. And obviously sitting across from us is head coach Bobby Petrino, who's employed me.
Noted hard-ass head coach Bobby Petrino. Let's be real here.
Who's taught me a ton about football. And, I'm glad. Have you ever seen one of those ducks on a pond? Above the surface, you're calm, cool, collected, trying to, make an impression on Katie. And then underneath, you're sitting there going, man, I don't know about this, guys. Like, those little feet are scrambling a million miles a minute. But I'm one of those guys, I say, let it rip and go get what you want.
I mean, like, that is wild. So, like, when you're talking to your future wife while being stared down by your boss and father, how do you thread the needle? What did you do? Like, take us through the play-by-play of how you, like, managed to get her to at least go out with you.
Listen, the one thing I pride myself on is being really good with people, so I could read the room. And I was just kind of I had heard that she's really good at golf. Like, Bobby would always talk about, their golf days together and how good she was at golf. So, listen, go with what you know. It's just like recruiting. So we started talking about, hey, listen, I heard you play golf. Heard you're pretty talented. I'm not very good, but, I'm sure
you could give me lessons.
Maybe you could teach me a few things, or, I could try to caddy for you at some point. So, again, I just kind of maneuvered calm, cool, and collected, not trying to draw too much attention to the conversation and go about our day. But to say that I really remember any other conversation or what actually happened at that dinner is
you blacked out. Yeah.
It's pretty clear I did. Yeah, definitely blacked out. And it worked out.
And what's amazing is y'all didn't immediately start dating, right? Like, you took a job at Northern Michigan for a year before that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's why it was crazy, because, I'm sitting there at Northern Michigan and things start, going that direction. And all of a sudden she's flying out from time to time to see me out there. And I don't know if you've been to Northern Michigan, but there's like record snowfall. So she would come on like a Thursday and usually leave on a Tuesday, because she got snowed in for 2 days because the little local airport couldn't fly.
Oh man, the flight's canceled. That's too bad.
That must have been really bad news for you, huh?
One of the best. Yeah, it was terrible, right? But one of the best parts was, she was. Everybody was like, "Where are you going?" And finally, Coach Petrino asked, and she goes, "I'm going to see Ryan Beard," and he goes, who? And but hey, the best part about it was I'm a hard worker. I was dedicated and loyal to him and the rest of the staff, and he took it great. And here we are today, 4 beautiful babies later, going to celebrate our 9th wedding anniversary this July. So life is good. I'm glad I took the chance.
But now you're also the former GA that's the head coach of a major program now, and you're kind of headed in that direction. So like
That's right.
you made the right choice too. Let's not pretend like you did something here that was like scandalous. Like you're the catch too, right?
I'd like to think so. Hey, but like I told Andy before we started the show, I said I gave Katie a hard time. I said, Katie, I've been around for 4 years, and it's like, did I smell bad? Was I not looking like as sharp as you would have liked me to look? Because again, you hadn't even noticed me in 4 years, and all of a sudden I sit down beside you. But sometimes they say the gift of gab helps, and it goes a long way to overcome maybe some of the not so sexiness of the look. But
I mean, like, I don't know about you guys, but no woman has ever come up to me and been like, "You're hot. Let's do stuff." Like every single time, like I've ever been successful in any regard with the opposite sex, it's come through hard work and game.
If you can make somebody laugh, you're winning. That's the rule. So I want to talk about the Northern Michigan job, because that's a D2 job, your first position coach job, and you take it to be a position coach, but you're making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You're doing all these different things. I find it interesting because I've talked to a lot of coaches about this. Lance Leipold at Kansas, for example, coached in D3 for so long. We're seeing it now with Kurt Signetti, with Bob Chesney. How much do those experiences help you as you rise through and go back into these levels where you do have 4 quality control people who can help you with a drill?
Yeah, I think it was tremendously impactful on my whole coaching career and really my life in general, simply because I knew I wanted to be a coach, and I knew I wanted to be a head coach from a very young age. And I took, like you said, basically going there for pennies to run my own room. And I had the entire DB room. So you're doing all that with no GAs. And I swear one day I went out to fall camp practice, and I was like, I was smelling something. It was peanut butter, because one of my jobs was, basically the nutritionist. So I had these huge tubs of Peter Pan peanut butter and jelly. And I was like hammering sandwiches out for the guys for their post-practice meal. And it was all over me. And I had no idea. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I was also equipment liaison. So I was helping we had a goal post that kind of stood like this. So I would hang on this side to get it back down. But I think it makes you well-rounded. I think it makes you be able to overcome adversity and be able to really sharpen your skill set, because when you have that many players to coach and you don't have the resources necessary, you really have to be efficient with your time, and you have to be an efficient communicator. You don't have a lot of time to coach each player. So you have to understand, don't overcoach. Just give them what they need, then get into the film room and teach them how to work through that on their own.
Ryan, you are now I've never had the pleasure of going to Myrtle Beach in my life, or the surrounding areas, and hopefully we can change that one day, because I think Andy knows how to get around Myrtle Beach. He strikes me as like a veteran there. I'm
a South Carolina native, so I have been to Dirty Myrtle once or twice.
But my understanding is that place knows how to party, that place knows how to have a good time, and that place is definitely an attraction. Do you want your program to mirror that vibe? Do you want to cultivate an environment in your stadium, in your program? Obviously, I'm not talking about players partying. I'm just being like in general, creating and cultivating that experience. And how much do you think that could help your program?
Absolutely. I want it to be the city's team. I want it to be Conway's team. I want it to be Myrtle Beach's team. And at some point through legitimate success, I want it to be the state of South Carolina's team. Again, you're going to sit here and go, there's Clemson, there's South Carolina. That's okay. There's room for more. And I think that with our facilities and with the vision of our athletic department, they want to be great. There's a standard of excellence here. And that's why this job was so appealing, because the resources are here to be successful. There's a great community that loves football. And like you said, there's some of the best food in the country. You're miles from the beach, and it just attracts really good people and people from all over the world. And that's what football is. Football locker rooms are a collection of people from every walk of life. And I think that's why we love it, because it's men coming together for a common goal, and that's to win championships.
When you get a job like this, and obviously, in this era, when they make a coaching change, the roster clears out, the portal fills up. How do you decide, when you have more of a blank slate, how to stock that roster quickly?
Sure. I think, one thing we did here that was different we're a different brand of football. Like we talked about the spring game. We're going to go good on good. We're going to play real football. Not everybody is about that life. So one thing we had to do with the current roster was see who even fits us, like who fits our vision moving forward. There were quite a few defections, whether, whichever behalf that was on. And I think it was good to purge the roster and get guys in here that fit us, that fit the culture that we're trying to drive home. And they kind of fits with the processes of who we are. I want a joyful atmosphere in these walls. I want people to come in and feel a different type of presence when you come meet our football staff, feel the togetherness of our players, and just know that this is a collection of men that work extremely hard and also play hard together too. You want every minute doesn't have to be 4th and 1. You can work hard and have joy in your life simultaneously.
What was it about Coastal? Because they've had success before, but haven't quite gotten as far as they want. And it's interesting because it's a campus where you've got a program across the way in baseball that legitimately competes for national titles. And it seems like, knowing Chance Miller, your AD a while, that's what he expects out of you. And how do you decide this is where I want to be? I can do this. I can do what they want me to do here.
Yeah, I think it fits my mentality and mental makeup perfectly. I want to be the best coach you've ever had on this podcast. I want to be, a Hall of Fame caliber coach, and I also want to affect lives in a positive way. And I think, pressure is earned. I think coming to work for Chance Miller, our AD, he has a real vision of excellence. He understands what he wants his program to look like, and he's pouring the resources in necessary to attain that goal. And that's what was so appealing, just the fact that they want to win championships. It's not, it's not okay just to go 6-6 and lose in a bowl game. They want to be at the top of the Sun Belt Conference and get into one of those playoff spots. And I think that aligns with me perfectly. My whole life, I've had a chip on my shoulder. I like doing things that people say can't be done, and this is the perfect spot to do that.
I think that when you think of Coastal, at least me, I think about the awesome COVID year that they had and how much fun it was to watch them, the turf, everything. I'm sure you had a memory of that of some sort. How quickly did that pop in your head when the job came open, and how exciting is it to think about how fun it actually is there when things are going well?
Yeah, it was one of the things that we thought about for sure. Grayson, the starting quarterback on that team, is currently on our staff doing a great job for us. He reminisces the old days quite a bit, and he's hungry to get it back there. I think that this town is hungry for a great football team, and they're also they have a hunger for a staff that's part of the community. I think that this is a group of people that want to see your face. They want to see you at events. They want to see you at charity functions. That they want to know you. They want to know who is leading this university because they take a lot of pride in it. And again, I think with our staff and our brand of football, they're going to get just that.
Grayson McCall had a center named Sam Thompson, who I think was like 5'9", would just clear out the Zaxby's in Conway.
That guy would sever your neck if you ever got into a confrontation.
Looking at your roster, though, that ain't what you're going for. You guys got big.
Yeah, we like length, we like wingspan, we like all those types of things. Because again, I think that when you want to get into those championship conversations and you want to get into those high level games, you need to have the guys that are capable of doing it. So I do think that's one thing that we did a really nice job of. And that's one thing we've done our whole career is recruit at a very high level. And I think the way we develop our players here at Coastal Carolina is something that's very attractive. And they understand when you come here, you're going to get coached. Like I'm not big on the soft attaboy Johnny. Like I just don't think that does anything for people. I think young men still want to be coached. They want structure. They want a disciplined program that does things the right way.
All right. We ask all first-time guests the same final question. So I'm going to pose this to you, Ryan Beard. What is your rule for life?
I'm gonna go with love hard, man. Find something you're passionate about and go get it. Shoot the moon. Whatever happens along the way, that it's worthwhile because it's something that brings you joy. It's something that makes you come alive. This life is short, man. Enjoy it and let it rip.
So if your hard-ass boss is sitting at the table,
it's gonna say
his fine daughter sitting there too, and you decide that's my future wife, you just go for it.
Hey, listen, we got a motto, okay? Die with your boots on.
Love it. I love it. Ryan Beard, thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys for having me. Sean's up.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the On3 YouTube page if you like the show and want to see some more shows and want to see when we go live. And we have a lot to talk about because as we speak, as this show is dropping, we're only a few hours away from some incredible Sweet 16 games. That's right. We got Texas, Purdue, Iowa, Nebraska, Arkansas against Ari's alma mater, Arizona, and Illinois, Houston tonight. And we will break it all down on Friday morning show.
Go Hogs. It's my horse.
You wanted to beat your own school?
Yes. I do.
Wow.
Very much so.
Cal's done a number on you. We'll talk to you tomorrow.